are in an age that the realm of our understanding is starting to expand so drastically that all of the old systems are crumbling. I made a post and a video only a couple of months ago where I was kind of reflecting on some of this energy that I was feeling and some of these internal, like, deeper beliefs, like non-domesticated, like deeper truth beliefs were surfacing about kind of the way that the system in the world is that we're in right now, how it doesn't function for our best, our highest good. It's like it's a lower vibration, lower frequency way of living, and it's not how we're meant to be living, like as a society, as individuals, as communities, as a collective. And it's interesting because after making that video, I kind of thought to myself, like, man, like, are we is that really going to be the reality? Like, is all of this meant to crumble, life as we know it? The worldwide pandemic was a good example of a first kind of initiation and start into that journey, I think. Well, there are a lot of movies that can be seen that way, as like initiations into this new world that we're going into. And even religiously speaking, there are a lot of people that have been teaching for a long time that Christ coming back to the earth in Christian teachings is especially one that I know personally more about because I was raised in the LDS church, and the way that it's taught there is that the second coming will bring fire and like cleanse the earth, and all those who are like living at a higher vibration will like be raised up and not be burned, and everything that is not living at that frequency will be burned and the earth will be cleansed. Kind of like the concept of or the story of Noah and the flood, where the whole earth was just kind of like made anew and everything started from newness. So as I've thought about that, I don't get the sense, and I don't think that others who are having their own awakenings at this time, the leaders of this movement in this era, I don't think that we're getting the sense that the earth is meant to be cleansed in that kind of physical way necessarily. This one, because it is a higher ascending and a higher vibration and frequency, it is more spiritual, it is more metaphorical, but energetically very, very real. Like, for myself, I found myself waking up exhausted every morning, and I also feel the most energy that I have ever felt as far as like spiritually and emotionally. 333. I saw 111 earlier as I started recording this. It's interesting. It's interesting to feel like the recalibration that I can feel that my literal cells are going through, that my body is changing, my mind is expanding, even my skin is changing rapidly. And it's to match this new earth. The earth is doing the exact same thing. That's why she's been cleansing and purging energetically and physically through like natural disasters and storms for years, which in Christian culture is seen as like signs of the times, right? Or a lot of prophecies from old, these things are seen as signs of the time, like talking about Christ coming to the earth again. I don't know as much about other religions, but I do know that there's a lot of correlations with similar teachings, different leaders involved, different forms of enlightenment that are all speaking to the same truth. So this is for everyone. These types of concepts are for everyone because our souls resonate with truth no matter where it's found. And anyway, the video that I made, I had posted on my YouTube channel called The Collective Ascending. And it was interesting because I was just kind of like verbalizing all of the different things that I was starting to observe and notice about the world and how I was feeling about the way that society is running right now. And just like, man, like kind of my conclusion at the end of that was just, there's a total collapse. There's a total collapse meant to happen of these types of structures. And I don't know where it goes from there. I do know that for my own individual personal experience, I am going through my own ascending journey that is bringing me into more of a higher vibrational living, while also staying very rooted into the physical, into the 3D, into the earth. Like Mother Earth is a very grounding source for me as I am recalibrating into these higher energies at this time. But the world in general is also starting to match this energy. That's why the leaders are being called at this time. And if you're seeing this as a leader or as someone who is unaware of these things going on, just know that the leaders have already been called and have already been awakening, especially this year. This year is a 9-year. It is the end of a cycle, and next year, 2026, is the start of a new. But there are so many things happening even the rest of this year. Eclipses, the Lionsgate portal on 8/8 of this year. So just in a few weeks here, we have a portal, an energetic gateway that is opening and allowing us to move into these energies even more deeply, like quantum leaping and timeline jumping into these newer, higher vibrations and frequencies that the earth has not been ready for us to experience for a long time. Now, I'm coming from an LDS background and an LDS culture where basically, in essence, they teach about 3 degrees of glory, celestial, terrestrial, and telestial, being these kind of 3 degrees of heaven is how it's taught in LDS culture and doctrine. And to me, the concept that I've always resonated with about that teaching is just the vibration, the frequency of each, and how the earth is collectively moving from a place where people living in their lower vibrations will no longer be a part of the new earth, because those who are working with light and working into these higher vibrations and higher frequencies will be the ones in power, but not in the same way that we've experienced. Again, all of what we've experienced that has caused us to be, as a society and as cultures and communities, I like the word communities better, we have become skeptical and jaded and guarded in our hearts for so long because of the depravity that we're experiencing and because of the horrendous nature that is found when people do not face their fears, when people do not face their anger, when people do not face, I should say adults specifically, when adults who have not matured fully because of the trauma that they may have experienced or the generational curses that they're carrying and the generational lineage, like DNA that is encoded into their system, is not allowing for them to live from their heart from the very beginning. They don't mature into fully functioning, independent and interdependent adults. So where does that leave us as a society? That leaves us at being at the mercy of leadership that does not serve the higher good. They serve their self. And that can only last for so long. Anyone who is going for power for their own glory exclusively and is trying to pull one over on the masses, that their karma does not allow for that cycle to continue for very long without higher energies, as the time is right, to come in and literally just hold a frequency that is so different that no one responds to the old leadership anymore. Does that make sense? It's not for power and it's not for glory. It is literally just vibrational frequency, clarity, resonance that is holding a signal and a frequency that is so strong that people respond to the light astronomically over the darkness. And because it's not for personal gain, it's for a collective. Anyone that you see that is rising in this power at this time are the most empathetic, concerned for others' well-being individuals. And they are remembering their own power at this time. And as they're growing in their own power, others are starting to see that they are being liberated just by witnessing what that person is experiencing, what that person is living as. So look, like you will notice these people, or if you are one of these people, you will know if you are one of these people, because you're already going along your own journey at this time. And everyone, this is the thing, everyone is drawn to this energy because we all remember the truth internally that we are capable of that same frequency. We have the capacity for that exponential growth to be living at a higher frequency, not living from paycheck to paycheck, not burning out at age 25 or 30 from a career and a job that was supposed to carry you through your whole life. Like, we are not the same generation as our parents, as our grandparents, as previous generations that have been living in war. So remember yourself, and you will see it as a mirror in other individuals at this time. Remember yourself, hold to the higher frequencies, and just look at more of how you can grow in all of the ways that you may be needing to, but have been afraid to face. You will find the strength to face what you're fearing if you trust the process. Trust yourself to sit in what you're experiencing, sit in the discomfort of it, and trust that you will make it through, that you have the power and the strength internally to make it through. It's more empowering than anything in the world to experience growing through and accomplishing and achieving something that you've never been through before. That is why this is such an individual journey and process for each one of us. You can't skip steps, and you would be handicapped if you did. Your own journey and your own process will bring you through the process itself. And even while you're in the process itself, we're not getting to the other end of the journey and like that's what we're moving towards. The process itself is where we're meant to be experiencing joy, love, gratitude, living in this higher frequency and seeing the difference and the sense of accomplishment and the sense of true confidence. 1313 is going to be more than anything that you've ever experienced by following the little stepping stone path that has been set out for you from previous generations before, of the career path and everything else. And maybe some of those things are still fulfilling to you. That may be part of your purpose as you move forward. But as for your experience with facing fear and doing shadow work and deep diving into the parts of your psyche that have scared you for a long time, like that proverbial closet that just everything's been shoved into and now it's overwhelming, allow yourself to take things step by step, piece by piece. You will have experiences as you commit to this process that will lead you to cleaning up the mess and going through the things without you even realizing that you are taking on that project. So trust the process. Trust sources of light from the other side of the veil that are meant to help you and be there for you, as well as those who are on this side of the veil. And the veil is just that we don't remember. I'm using LDS terminology, but the veil is that we don't remember what was before this existence. or after, until we go through some of these awakenings, and then we may remember past lives that we've experienced or come to understand deeper inner truths that we may not have remembered before, but things that just resonate and you don't understand why. Those are the types of moments and experiences that speak to something greater than all of what we're in just right now in this moment. We are in an incredible age where spirituality and science, the world of science and medical and technology, are all starting to merge. Technology has started to progress and advance to the point that it is confirming truths that people who have been in the spiritual worlds have known forever, anciently. Like ancient civilizations and cultures had progressed to some of these points as well, and were removed at times to pave the way for the greater, well, basically to not rob everyone of their own unique journey. But the world is ready now. The world is ready to collectively start to experience things that have been experienced by people from all ages and all centuries. But our technologies now are starting to get to the point that they are confirming these spiritual truths, these spiritual teachings that were never able to be proven before. They're starting to measure even the frequencies of trees and the ecosystems that one tree can create. The trees speak to each other through their root systems. Trees are, and there's someone that I follow that has talked about trees being like a very good example of how our relationships are meant to look. And I really love this concept because it talks about interdependence being like the vertical relationships that the trees have with each other, but underneath the surface they're connected at their roots. And now science is starting to show that they literally communicate to each other through their own unique language and source signals and everything else. It's very powerful. It's very beautiful. Trees are the reason that we are able to breathe on this earth. Wood, literally, the wood of a tree is the most rare resource in the universe. Not gold, not silver. Wood is the most rare resource of the universe because this does not grow anywhere else. Life inhabits this earth, and it's so powerful and it's so beautiful because of how rare it is, and we don't think about it on a day-to-day basis. But needless to say, trees are a perfect example of the kinds of relationships that we are meant to be having with each other. These relationships of interdependence. So study that concept if you aren't aware of that. A lot of us are aware of codependence, right? And that, simply being said or explained in a different way than you may have heard before, is mature versus immature adults. And that's not a dig. It's literally just, if you have any deficits from your childhood, from any trauma that you've experienced, especially extended trauma, may have been developmental, if you're experiencing complex PTSD or anything of that nature where you have some sort of deficit in either an emotional way, a spiritual way, a physical way, neurologically speaking, these are things that we really can't see on the outside, but that we experience through our relationships. So if you tend to find yourself pattern recognition of what you find yourself in relationally, usually speaks to where you're at internally and internally. Codependency happens when adults on the outside with children, developmentally speaking, on the inside, are still going through stages. They're living in survival And so they look for and latch on to other people who they instinctively can tell will fill their need, the same way that a parent is meant to do for a child, not an adult is meant to do for another adult. And that is the difference between codependence and interdependence. Two securely attached adults who have matured and gone through all of the stages of their development, this is a totally neutral concept, because you're dealt the hand that you're dealt at the beginning of your life. If you didn't have parents that were supportive and loving in all of the ways that you needed for you to go through as a child your developmental stages to mature in certain ways, you will not be able to function as a mature adult in your relationships until you do the work to then regulate yourself as your own parent energy with your own adult brain. You can move backward and fill those deficit areas, but you have to do the work to recognize, without succumbing to fear of failure or any sort of stigma that's attached to being immature. You have to just sit there and recognize, listen, like, everything that I experience is speaking to where I'm at now. Everything that I've experienced is why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing right now. And as soon as you start to have that perspective shift and look at where that actually opens your mind and opens your heart and opens your way to your life to a new way of living, a new way of being, a new way of experiencing relationships in the world, it doesn't keep you stuck anymore. It doesn't keep you trapped anymore. Recognizing patterns and recognizing when you're stuck in a loop and in a karmic cycle of the same relationship but a different person over and over and over again, whether romantic or friendship or otherwise, actually gives you the freedom. It actually gives you the freedom to move forward because you're starting to recognize 22, what you were missing, and you are not helpless anymore because you are not a child anymore. As an adult, you actually have the brain capacity, the neurology, the mental capacity to regulate yourself. You just have to see yourself as both the child and the parent in that moment. And if you don't, then automatically, subconsciously, your body will energetically look for and attract magnetically other people to you that will be more of a parent energy, but it will be an unhealthy relationship. Because it knows that it needs to soothe and regulate itself. Regardless, we're wired for connection. So if we don't give that to ourselves, we will unconsciously start to seek out other individuals who will be that for us, even if it's not for our highest good. It gets us through enough in that moment. It keeps us surviving. We don't want to be just surviving anymore, though. We want to be thriving. And the only way to do that is to give yourself what you may have been robbed of in your childhood by other people who were going through the exact same experience generationally. This is why we're changing all of this now. You have to give yourself what you were robbed of and give yourself the chance to mature in the ways that you never got to experience as a child. Very important concepts, very important things to recognize, that facing your fears, facing your own shadow parts, the darkest, deepest parts of yourself, sitting with the discomfort of that is the liberation, is the key. You are the key to your own liberation. And if you find yourself getting upset at everyone else for this or that or the other, that's okay. You can experience that, but you will continue to experience that and nothing else if you don't start to look at yourself not as a failure, not as bad, not as anything other than totally worthy and deserving of the love that you never received thus far. And as soon as you give that to yourself, you will start to attract newer energy that will be able to reciprocate that to you in return, because they have also done their own work to work towards the same, which then also translates once you have that deeper partnership. If you then decide to have children with a person of this nature, will perpetuate where they will not have to go through that same cycle. This is why this is so powerful, because those children that you would have with a partner who is of that same maturity level and caliber, because they've done their own work to give themselves what they need first, and you've done the same for yourself, that is what allows for a child to grow up in true harmony, security, and stability, where they don't have to go back into their journey and look for where the deficits are and the areas that are still need maturing. They can just experience their childhood and go through it and grow the way that they're meant to, and move forward as an adult, attracting their own secure partnerships as the time allows for it, and so on and so on. So really, really important concepts, and there's a lot here that I've had to share today, going into all sorts of different topics. But if you've been with me up until this point, just know how proud you should be of yourself for being open to responding to this type of work, to being open, even if it's just for listening's sake right now, that there is more for you to experience. There is more for you to experience in the realms of everything, every part of your life, whether it be spiritual, sexual, social, emotional, physical, material, all of these realms. There is more for you to experience as you deep dive into this work of yourself, in the journey of giving yourself what you've always deserved. So, have a blessed day. Remember your worth. Remember the child that you still are on the inside and will always be. If you're a parent, you will understand this concept. You always see your child as your baby. Look at yourself with the same loving viewpoint, even if it's just a little bit at a time. That narrative will slowly shift and shift and shift over time as you rework and rewrite the narratives of your past to reflect something different for your future.